You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
I'm lucky to be chatting today with Vincent Pietrafesa from Sarista. And I wanted to talk a lot about the power and importance of data because, these last couple of years, there have been a lot of changes in the digital ecosystem in particular. And the data, good data has become more and more powerful. So I'd love to hear about sort of the origin story of Sarista to the extent that you know that. And, sort of how when you came on board, sort of how you jumped into this idea that great data can make the difference between the success and failure of a campaign.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me, Kevin. Always great to catch up and to see you and to talk to you. But yeah, I started at Starista 2 years ago. A lot of people are like, wait, you haven't been there forever? I'm like, no, I've been in this industry forever. I've been in this industry for 20 years. This past April, I started, and people are like, wait a minute. But yeah, I have started in 20 years ago. Starista is started by a husband and wife team of AJ Gupta and Candice Gupta out in San Antonio. Now I know, but AJ's the CEO. He's the one you probably see more of on just social media, winning all kinds of awards. So he and I met each other about 11 years ago when the company started. I met AJ at a company. I was at a company called Market Fish, and they were just getting started. I would see him at conferences. I would get him into all the cool parties at the conferences. And he was really building something. They started out as a data provider, right? Building their own data sets, and then just morphed into kind of a marketing technology company. So, but really the importance of data has been at the core of everything we do. Right now, I think you'll hear a lot about identity graphs and identity resolution. That's kind of that's this year's like big data or ABM. But Starista really has a robust identity graph because of our consumer data and our business data that we're deploying to. And so we're seeing all those actions there. We're able to match Kevin at home with a business. So that's really not only having the right data, but having data that really helps you target an individual in a variety of different ways and making sure, of course, that data is of the utmost quality. That's what I think the importance of data, but I've been focused on the B2B side of things here at Starista the last 2 years.
Really? Okay, cool. The interesting thing about data is, of the 11 acquisitions we did at 3 of them were in the direct mail business. And bad data in direct mail is even more catastrophic than bad data in digital because, you're paying postage, right? And if you're paying postage to send somebody something to either the wrong person or a person that doesn't exist, right? That's a huge waste of money. Now, people in the digital space have sometimes said, it's not quite as important that the data be good. But, I like to have super accurate data regardless. When it comes to maybe paying a little bit more for great data versus mediocre data, certainly in direct mail, it's like a no-brainer. You want the best possible data. So what argument do you give to people who are like, I can get a super cheap list of this SIC code and this geography from so-and-so. And you want to basically let them know, no, you don't want to go that way. You want to get a good list.
Well, yeah, it's funny you say that. I usually say there's usually no argument. I just say, go, sure. Do you need a list of other companies that do that? I could, again, 20 years in this business. I'll give you here, call them if you want. I have so I was talking to someone recently and they're like, well, I get my data X amount of dollars per thousand. Awesome. Continue that relationship. We'll stay connected on LinkedIn. That's really the argument, really. And like you said, Kevin, it's not only, especially postal, right? Like you said,
Yeah.
postal, it's not only the postage, but it's those really nice mail pieces that you get. I get these catalogs in the mail. I'm like, this is awesome. I got something the other day. I was looking to go back to Broadway with my wife and see something. And I swear I was on the telecharge site. And then boom, I get a nice mail piece for one of their shows, Come From Away. Let's do a free plug for them. And I might go see the show. I was on the site and they sent it to me. So I think having that accurate data, knowing that I was on their site, and then they didn't bombard me right away. They sent me a few days later a mail piece, probably because of that reason. It had to be. But that accuracy, and also in digital, you're spending money on creative, especially if you're doing display or connected TV. You want to make sure that that's getting into the right home. And right now, having accurate data, yes. Also having, no one's been in the office. I mean, I'm the lunatic who's in the office, since July of 2020, because I have two kids at home and I was like, get me out of here. So, but for me, think about having consumer and business personas, being able to target Kevin at home with a mail piece for B2B related services. So that's been really impactful for Starista. It's our Starista Link product.
So obviously B2B is a pretty broad category, the area that you primarily focus on. And there's a difference between sort of targeting B2B enterprises that are huge, where, you might actually be, having digital contacts or snail mail contacts with, 200 people at GE, versus sort of a super niche B2B initiative where, maybe you're targeting SMB size B2Bs. So how do you advise your clients on sort of, best practices in B2B? Like you're one of the few companies that has sort of a hybrid approach where you can do postal, you can give them the list for postal purposes, and you've got an email product as well. So, what are the best practices there? You want to make it into their postal inbox, but you also want to make it into their email inbox if at all possible.
For me, the way I approach talking to my partners and my clients, but their partners to me, and the reason, again, the longevity in this business is that partners have come with me, various times if I've left a job, which I usually stay at jobs for many years. I'm not one of those every year or two kind of people. But I say, how would you want to be marketed to? What would make you, we're business executives, you and I, Kevin, how many times does it take you to see something and react? So I'm a fan of a multi-channel, of the omni-channel approach. I remember I need to have an email to me, maybe a few of those emails with different offers showing me, like easing me into, hey, just buy this, buy that. No, show me a little bit about your company. That's why display is big, some brand awareness. If I'm not aware of you, some brand awareness. And then you call it old school if you want, I still love a good mail piece. I do. Starista, we don't do a ton in direct mail. Like, and really where our involvement is just providing that really high quality targeted list for people to execute. There's companies I know out there that could utilize that. You need to do the postage. That your company does that, right? One of your companies. But think about it that way. I like an omni-channel approach. Rarely am I going to respond with one email. So I kind of put it back on them. What would you prefer? What makes you respond? You're the leader of a company. What gets you to take a meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. It takes a lot of impressions, and you don't even know how many of those impressions are actually making it to the brain, right? In display media, there's a little bit of banner blindness, so you may want to set your impression caps a little bit higher and buy high quality inventory, when you're out there either doing regular RTB, or if you're using your DSP to do, PMP deals, which are directly with specific publishers. So I'm a big fan of sort of ubiquity, I guess you'd call it, right? You want to try to be in front of that individual up to that point where it's not annoying, but not try not to cross that annoying battle. There was an interesting article in I think it was Media Post recently about how Slack had over advertised on the Olympics, and actually some people came away from it with a negative impression, right? Because they ended up having to be exposed to that ad, dozens and dozens and dozens of times. If you were a big Olympics watcher, obviously not everybody would have seen it that many times, but finding that perfect level of impression coverage is really sort of key. And doing it omni-channel, you really have to sort of coordinate. So it's great that you guys are in that position to be able to help facilitate that, whether an agency is doing the mailing or you're helping facilitate that or not.
We're seeing a lot of some, excuse me, some trends really are connected TV in the B2B world, right? A lot of people were at home. People are binge watching a variety of different shows on a variety of different streaming platforms. It used to be, Kevin, where you were at home and maybe you received an ad for Coca-Cola or Mercedes-Benz or Nissan, my favorite brand of cars, where that was the case. But now you're seeing more you're at home, and I'm seeing like maybe a Salesforce.com or a software ad or a Slack ad where that Zoom, companies like that, they're right. I'm a business decision maker or an influencer at best, hey, we should look into this. So we're seeing that. And you mentioned something I'd love to talk about is that capping. A lot of companies, especially on the B2B side, right? They're targeting two different ways. They're targeting persona-based, give me these decision makers in these industries, but also account-based marketing, right? We joked how ABM was a big buzzword. It's still here. ABM, people are still utilizing it. My clients utilize ABM all the time. Just these 5,000 accounts. What we do, and hopefully other companies do this. I'm not just going to say Stirista, but Stirista, what we do, I think really well in that area is, yes, you want to target these companies, but there's people make the decisions. So it's the contacts, but also being able to cap that frequency. If a lot of people say, hey, these are the 3,000 companies, but every impression is served to someone at IBM.com, you don't want that. You want to spread it out to those 3,000 companies. You want to cap it. You want reporting based on that. So that's what I think, at least if I'm talking about Stirista here, that's what we've done well. But it's also a trend I'm seeing.
Cool. Yeah, one thing that I like to advise clients on, if they have the business intelligence in the background to be able to do it, is to sort of try to segment even their prospecting at the company level and at the individual level into sort of predicted close rates and predicted value to the company, including potentially lifetime value. Because sometimes when you've got a budget, a monthly budget, whether it's 10,000 or 100,000, you want to heavy up against those super valuable companies. If you decide that real estate prospects are worth twice as much as accounting prospects, you want to spread your budget in that way that you're more likely to be hitting the real estate prospects and the accounting prospects, but you may want to cover everything, right? You may want to still be there for the accounting prospects, but maybe you're less aggressive, less budget, proportional to the value to you as a client. So do you find that some of your more sophisticated clients, your clients have that data, right, where they can give you a lot of granularity as to, it's this SIC code in these geographies or whatever their target filter that is? Do they have that information at their fingertips?
For the most part, yes. I think a lot of clients that we work with have that information. And because of the trust we build, it really starts with that trust and saying, hey, Kevin, look, what are your expectations of this campaign? I start out every conversation that I have, if I'm further along the path, before I talk even budgets or anything, it's okay, what are your expectations? Well, I want to send 1,000 emails and get 1,000 clients. I do too. Everyone does, right? But it really is those expectations. But also, it also starts with trust. Can you share with me some data that who are your best clients? Can I take a look at those? Send it hashed, and we can match it back to our database and model it and say, oh, these are your customers. But it's also having a partner, any partner out there, whether it's Stirista, whether it's Did It, whether it's anyone else, talk to them about optimizing the campaign, taking a look at that. Who's opening, who's clicking, who's responding, and then shifting budget accordingly, where you want a partner to do that. You want a team behind you to do that. So I think it's a matter, to answer your question. So yes, to the point where they can share if they even know, which most of them do. And if they don't, be open to allowing a trusted partner to help you with that process.
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting. Sometimes, when you discuss the expectations and there's sort of a mismatch between expectations and budget. I'll say, well, because we do in fact know what your most valuable prospects look like, why don't we double down the budget there instead of spreading too thin, right? Because if the budget spreads so thin that the average impression count is 2 per month, right, for an individual, nobody's going to respond, right? Nobody will have reached that saturation tipping point where they start to respond, and so you'll have spread yourself too thin.
Absolutely.
So we always like to sort of stack rank. At least our philosophy is like stack rank your effective media based on what's going to work best, and then if you've only got X amount of budget, start with the stuff that's going to work strongest. And in the case of lists, start with the strongest leads. So I think advising them that way, in your case, they'll come back and they'll buy more leads, or they'll broaden out their geographies, or they'll broaden out their SIC code classifications. As it's working for their top categories, they'll move into other categories.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's really a matter of it's that. And then you also have to test. You also have to be willing to test and see what works, because there may be channels that you don't know. And look, no one gets it right every time. There's been scenarios where, okay, these are realistic expectations. Let's see. And then, the audience dictates whether they like your offer or not. The audience dictates whether they like you or not, in so many ways. It's like, well, you're putting it out there. There's only so much. Maybe it's too aggressive. Maybe it's not the audience. You have to test different things, especially clients who are just starting out, and there's that brand awareness piece. It's like, no, I want to go right to a demo of my product. It's like, well, people don't even know who you are yet. So you have to ease them in. Imagine would you take a demo with a company you haven't known from one email? Not all the time. So you have to ease them into that.
Yeah, people forget that in B2B, time is the most valuable asset, right? And so asking a person to take a demo is a pretty big jump, right? It's like trying to get action on the first date. It's a big jump.
Big jump. It's a big jump. Just, learn that person's favorite color first, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Have a meal with them. Learn their favorite color. Like, do something before. Exactly. That's a great way to describe it.
So you've actually also got your own podcast. What was the catalyst for that? You guys are a vendor in a category that's pretty crowded. I imagine having a podcast helps you differentiate and have some great conversations as well.
We think so. So we started, it's called the Marketing Stir podcast. We just finished season 1. Listen to us, season 1, right? It's a cool thing to do, right? Is have seasons like these shows out there. Season 1 was 86 episodes. And they go around, 45 minutes. So when I joined the company, one of my ideas back in June of 2019 was, hey, we should start a podcast. I've been on podcasts before, personally with some friends of mine who have podcasts. I thought it was just an emerging medium, especially in the B2B world. And my CEO, AJ, he was sure, all right, let's get it on the list. Let's see if we can do it. And then the pandemic happens. So March, some of our clients' campaign work paused, as one would imagine, right? We work with a lot of great clients who depend on people coming into their business. And so we had more time on our hands, meaning our marketing department. Okay, let's see, instead of the layoffs, let's put everyone to really good use. So we started the podcast. We called it the Marketing Stirista, stirring things up. Also, we wanted it, Kevin, to be as if we met you at a conference at the bar, and how many conversations you talk about what you do. We might talk about TV shows. We talk about sports. We talk about life. What do you do in marketing? So that's what kind of started the conversation. I think I have a decent personality. My co-host and CEO thinks he's hilarious, thinks he's naturally funny.
Well, you're willing to get up on stage and prove it.
Yes, I am.
Your other persona.
I think I'm funnier than him, but hey, it's a whole other battle that we have together. And it works. I think if you know my CEO, we're 86 episodes. We just wrapped that. We have guests like companies like Pearl Vision and Nissan, and in our industry, more Low2Me, Axiom. So we had it's been fun. And now, because of the amount of listeners that we have, we get PR agencies reach out to us and say, hey, get my client on. We're like, we're not ready for that yet. We're still just doing this, homegrown and really getting some good people. But yeah, it's now I see a lot of B2B podcasts, especially in our industry, which great. That's awesome. But we really like it because the guests feel comfortable. We joke, we'll go 1 minute from talking about data and the importance of security in data to we'll talk about The Bachelorette or Tiger King when it was big. So it's that. And that's why I think a lot of people like our podcast. But also, yeah, people do discover us organically and they're like, oh, that's what you do. I don't talk to, if you listen to any of my podcasts, it's just like in the beginning, I talk about quickly what Stirista does because people are probably wondering, again, brand awareness, what Stirista does. And then that's it. And even some of our guests through kind of osmosis just are like, oh, wait, that's what you do. Let's have a conversation. And if we don't do any business with them, that's okay. We just spent an hour together. We're friends. It's great.
Yep, absolutely. Which actually brings me back to a question I meant to ask, which is, you guys help make sure it's the right audience, right? But to make the marketing effective, right, it has to be sort of the right audience at the right time with the right message. And sometimes, you may not have control over, the creative, right? Sometimes maybe you do have control over the creative. And so, I'm always a big fan of putting humans in creative, even for B2B, right? Because even if it's a SaaS product or data that you're buying, you're still buying from a human. Mm-hmm. Trust is built between humans. It takes a lot for a brand by itself to convey trust, right? Maybe if you spent $1 billion on media, Salesforce now has its own trust level, right? You don't need to trust Mark Benioff anymore.
Yeah, it's proven. But I think you're right, because I talk to a lot of B2B marketers on the podcast and as part of me being the VP of B2B products at Stirista, B2B needs to be more personal. Consumer has been doing it for years. B2C has been doing it for years, tugging on the personal, the connection, the emotion. B2B, we're people at the end of the day. We're going through the same things. B2B, now someone is at home and their child runs in. 3 years ago, they're like, get out of here, Billy, get out of here. Now it's like, come on in. I'll have my son sit on my lap, and just, it's part of life. And we're talking about software. You need to humanize it. And I think that's what's happening. I love being in B2B marketing. I spent the last 8 years of my career specifically on B2B. Now with Stirista, I kind of oversee the Access B2B division and all the partnerships there. That's a separate division in Stirista. I think it's really all marketing is becoming personalized because, and even here's another thing that I think I pride myself on is that customer service relationship. People also partner with people they trust and they like. A lot of people have data. Kevin Lee, your name is probably on another list and it's on mine, but it's that customer service aspect. And I'm at a company now where our customer service, our client services team, which is oversaw by Valerie Geckler, it's incredible. It's incredible. People literally will tell us, the reason I don't go with that other client after 8 years is because I feel like more of a partner in 3 days than I did in 8 years. And that's from an actual client who said that to me. So the personalized, it happens in any type of business. Should
Yeah,
be.
I think it's true. And to your earlier point, like I think it's sort of a weird byproduct, a positive byproduct potentially of the pandemic, which is that as people started doing all their Zooms from home, and it at home they're more likely to just be them, right? In other words, the full them, not just the business hat, because their cat jumps on their lap and their kids run in behind them.
Yeah.
And you sometimes hear a little commotion going on, like in another room. And I have a green screen, so I can sort of eliminate myself to some extent from that. But I think that sort of really humanizes a lot of these Zooms. My client services team, we've got a bunch of clients we've closed in the last year. We haven't met them face to face, right? And so you end up meeting, Zoom to Zoom instead, or Microsoft Teams or whatever platform ends up being used. And I think to some extent, you may end up with a closer relationship with that individual because they're in their home often. You happen to be in the office today, but because you get a slice of their reality, right? Their full personal reality, and more likely to have non-business conversations when the cat jumps on a lap or the kid runs in.
And also because everyone's going through this together. It's not like this is a hurricane in a certain area, or this is something like that. It's everyone all over the world are going through it. And I think I love when there's no background put up. Well, who knows? I don't know what you have back there, Kevin. So we don't want to.
You don't want to see.
We don't want to see
office
it. We don't want to
there.
see that. But I also love when you put up and you talk to a client and you're like, wait, you have 7 guitars back there. You play music, and it's what's that? New York Giants. Is that an Eli Manning in the background picture? I love the Giants. So it's that personalization. But I also feel that because of this, once you get to meet that person in person, it's more of a meaningful connection now because of this, right? But I face to face. I was always a big fan of meeting my clients and talking to potential new prospects. I love that face to face. So I'm looking forward to, had some glimpses of it recently. I'm hoping it gets back to that as I prepare for some conferences in October here in New York and Boston.
Yeah, we'll have to see how those conferences work out. I'd love to have you go into a little more detail. Like, did you have, even pre-pandemic, the matchups where you could match the home addresses to the executives, or was that something that was a byproduct of the pandemic, where people were like, okay, now I really got to reach them at home because they're never going to get into the office? I mean, on our direct mail side, we found that the people who continued to direct mail to the home of our B2C customers, response rates went up, because the dynamic of how people interacted with postal mail changed from getting home at 8:30 at night and finding the stack of mostly bills and junk mail, and this stuff never even really got looked at. It went right in the can. And now they were happy when the postal carrier arrived, because usually there was something from Amazon in it, and they were like, ran downstairs excited to see a human, right? Or ran out to see a human, and the mail got extra attention, and so conversion rates went up. But obviously B2B, now you have the flip side, where if you mail to their office, they're going to get in there once a week and they're going to find a stack of mail, and they're just going to go through and mainly not look at it. So it's like it's reversed, where you're going to have to hit that person at home, or you have a higher chance of breaking through the clutter at home. So have you augmented your ability to append the business addresses and the home addresses in the last year? Or was that already something that existed prior to the pandemic?
It was something that already existed, but with a lot of things, it's kind of like we were talking the other day about the QR code, how that's made a comeback. I never used to use a QR code. Now I use them all the time, and I had to teach my mother-in-law, hey, this is it. But it's one of those things where it's always been a product, but now more people are aware of it and they utilize it. And it's kind of one of those where also that has helped us. Maybe the pandemic, I wouldn't want to say helped spawn our identity graph, Omna, but that recently came out in the past year, being able to the IP address, the various IDs, being able to target Kevin at various locations, devices, that kind of came out of it. But the Starista Link product was always there. Just kind of more light has been shed on it, more people taking advantage of it. To good news.
Yeah. Have you found that that when you get feedback from clients that some of the mail that is sent to the office is starting to get a higher response rate? Obviously, we did invent the QR code direct mail technology, which I look forward to getting your feedback on in September. But have you noticed that the response rates for the business address have gone up again as people try to get back to the offices? Or is the what's the balance, home versus office, or are they both just critically important at the moment?
I think more people you hear different dates, right? So I have clients now who really didn't touch direct mail during the summer to the office. I think summer, even pre-pandemic, people were a little more laxed anyway, I think, in the summer. However, I see it now, September coming up, getting those important pieces as people come back into the office. Because a lot of companies are saying, all right, September, come back after Labor Day. All right, January, come back. So people are preparing for that. But I do still think if my clients are weaving in postal, it's still to the home address, even when my clients are B2B.
Right. Cool. Well, what else has you excited from your own product roadmap or from the industry at large? Like, what are you really jazzed about that's coming out soon, or that just released on your side, or things that you've seen out there that you're super excited about? You mentioned OTT and CTV, addressable TV for B2B into the home is really sort of cool. But any other sort of cool stuff coming out?
I think for Starista, I've been really excited about what we're doing with our Access B2B division. One of the things, Starista, we're kind of broke off. We're still Starista, but we have our own site, our own suite of products. Kevin, a lot of times when you're a company like Starista that offers a variety of different marketing technologies, you go to Starista's website and it's, we have political data, we have B2B data. A B2B marketer only wants to see what he or she wants that pertains to them. So having this Access B2B division, I'm really excited about this new DX platform. It's amazing. It's the ability it's a software solution where people can go in, take their existing database, enhance it with Starista data to make it more targetable, also to utilize it to prospect, to go in and say, hey, I want to target these 12 companies. I want to target marketing managers who live in Illinois, who SIC code 81. You can go ahead and do that. So it's a platform that allows you to do that. So that's been pretty cool for me. And also just this identity graph. I've been on a few panels, so is my CEO, about identity resolution. Having an identity graph, we call it Omna, has been a real game changer for us. It's been a great product. And also last year, investing in our own DSP has been a game changer for us, because not only can you execute an email campaign with us, but we also can execute a connected TV, a display campaign. All stays within Starista, and security being such a big concern for people. It's not like, we send it here, then this one goes here. Nope, all stays here. So that's really been exciting for me.
Cool. Well, I look forward to seeing what you guys come out with next. So we'll definitely stay in touch. Thanks
Absolutely.
so much for joining me.
Thanks, Kevin. Always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in the Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.